Hello everybody, just getting set up here, making sure everything's working, and I'll see if the stream is live. Before getting started with the game. Just getting set up here. All right, we'll start in about 3 minutes, but happy to take questions via chat. Let's switch over. All right. Hello, and also I will share this in game. And I'll also let people know in the Discords. Various Discords for the game. Here, and we'll just do inside OOG also. And we'll go ahead and get started. All right, well, I run Archiel Industries. I have been playing Prosperous Universe for 1,306 days now. I've been, let's see, headquarters count. I've got 38 bases, or 38 base permits, 37 bases. And this is kind of a day in the life of what I've got going on here. I purposefully didn't do anything yet this morning. So usually first thing I do is I take a look at notifications. We got 44 today. And my starting point is to basically go through these, and I'm looking to take care of contracts that have come in, and keeping out for things like faction contracts, keeping out for elections to watch those. I sort of will check market items that trades that have occurred if I particularly care about it. Aluminum. Ooh, that's so we had some excitement in the aluminum markets that a lot of you may have been aware of. That's worth talking about. Somebody came in and wiped out all of the demand for aluminum. Sold 95 million worth of aluminum on one day. So the people filled up orders pretty quickly. And I'm just seeing where the price is going to settle out. I suspect that we're not going to result in an aluminum price. You know, we saw 950, something like that recently for aluminum. I don't think this big action is going to cause it to drop very far. I think we're going to be right back at the 950 price for aluminum. As we were before, which is still really undervalued. And that's actually one of my items for today, things that we're going to go over, is that aluminum is so undervalued that I shouldn't even be running these SMEs, and I should probably move more of that to the advanced smelters to make alloys. And that's going to be a lot of shipping, but that's one of the first items of the day. So let's keep going. We got if the COGC is one of my planets, I will pay attention to that and keep it filled. More trades. Contract. Okay, this one is Caskman. So this is a contract coming in for RBE and RSE for the Gateway project. So when I get a Gateway item, I always log that on the sheet. This is kind of one of the daily things that I'll do. I don't think he is in the pledged resources yet. So I like to be really careful with these and try not to mess them up. Part of that technique is when I get the contract, I will enter the data for it, but I will not kind of finalize it yet. So I enter the name, the quantity, and then I don't mark it as received yet until the contract comes through. This way there's 2 times for me to check it, and I have 2 times. I check it every time I get the contract and every time the contract's filled. That way I'm less likely to accidentally mess it up. So this is Caskman's first pledge. So we'll go ahead and enter that there as a pledge also. So that will bring Caskman up to 0.6% of the gateway project. All right. All right, so back to the list here. What else we got going on here? Contracts filled. New contract. Oh, okay, we have our first rhenium metal coming in. So this is part of the gateway project, things that we've done with the colony ship. That's also on the to-do list, is dealing with that. And last item here, okay, contract got filled. All right, looking good. Election has started. Always go and vote in the elections. They've been pretty uncontested lately, so that's been nice. Hi, everybody in chat. I see a lot of people there. That's awesome. Thanks for joining. Please let me know if there's any questions, just stuff you want to talk about in the game, or questions on how I do things, or what I'm doing why. I know we've got some experienced people and some people who are probably new to what's going on here. Oh, the other thing I try to do every day is I start off sending off my ships and checking through the burn and doing refueling. So we have an action for refueling. If you have a lot of ships or a lot of planets and you're not using actions, I definitely recommend doing that. Refueling is pretty straightforward. Because there is a refueling action kind of built into the XIT action system. And this is refined prun as the plugin that you have to get. So we'll just go through and refuel everything that's at Antares, which basically I use a hub and spoke system. So all of these ships will go to Antares, go somewhere else, and then come back. That's basically 80% to 90% of everything that I fly. There will be some direct flights that I end up doing from one place to another. Question about how much vertical integration do you do? I would say I'm fairly well vertically integrated. I make most. I make rations. I make my own water. I make drinking water. FIM, MIA, like consumables. I make a lot of them. I don't make a ton of the weirder consumables or the like smaller niche items. So like PT, I'll make sometimes just when it's convenient. OVE is really easy to accidentally make 13,000 of them, and then you just sit on them forever. But SCN and then PDA, I don't really make too much of. The coffee I'll make when I get cheap calf, basically. And as for the other, like ale and gin, I make a little bit of it, but I just cannot keep up with my own demand. So I don't bother too much with that. And then for vertical integration of consumables, I usually have like 1 or 2 resource taps going at any given time. So I'll buy a lot of the raw ore. But from there on up, I tend to make most of what I use. So I'd say I'm pretty vertically integrated in that respect. I maybe make a conscious effort, like as a bigger player now, to like do less of that because it just takes so many bases. Like I do make carbon, and like that's something I feel like I would like to get out of just because it costs so many permits. Because if you see like most of my bases setups are like this, where it's like I always have my fleets on the top left, my Antares inventory, the warehouse at the CX here, so I can drag stuff. I can do a flight to any of these 4 planets. Then I'll have 3 or 4 planets on a screen, and that's about the right amount for like, you get the basics. You get your base screen, your production, and your inventory. And since you got your fleets there, you can manage the flights in and out of those planets. So you can see here, like I've got 2 water planets on this screen. Thalassa B is hydroponic farms, and that'll make the stuff to run nascent. So that's 1 carbon planet. And then on Thalassa D here, I have another planet running carbon. On the food side, Demeter, if you're running when you're further along, as you're running farms, the only thing you probably want to do in a farm is your spicy herbs, because it can only be made in a farm. Everything else you can make that you'll need, you can make in a hydroponic farm, and you'll get a lot more production per permit made. So I recommend that. But like, yeah, as you can see, it's a lot of permits that are just for this. They do okay, and I've dropped agricultural planets in the past just to low because the income per base is pretty low. Like we can take a look at that. So I vertically integrate a lot, but if I see a base that's kind of a turd, I'll look at dropping it. So yeah, I mean, right now Demeter is one of my farm planets. It's got the orchards, but that's not a great number. Obviously, Zephyrus is making Krypton, so that's not a full base at the moment. Rhenos Potter is making Rhenium, and that's not valued, so it's going to have a funny number on it. This is making gateway parts, and they're not valued correctly, so that's why it says it's losing $1 billion. But I try to keep some of these other things at kind of a higher, anything under the 60,000 is probably not performing great for me. So that's a sign where it's like, hey, vertically integrating maybe isn't worth it. Water might be a special case for you if you're engaging in shenanigans in the water market or something like that. All right, so the easy stuff to do is I go through and I look at all of the ships that are on planets that aren't Antares, and send them back to Ant. Oh no, the textile manufacturing, the space tethers have stopped here. So I try not to stop production ever, but it happens sometimes. So this is a ship dedicated to flying SPTs because they are so heavy. And I want to thank everybody who has been helping ship. I've been putting out public shipping orders for that stuff, and it is you can just see this planet makes a ton of stuff. Oh, so we're out of MTC. All right. So we'll switch this over for a little while to make HMS just to kind of keep the queues going. Like, it's better to keep something being made than to have a planet go idle. Like, that's kind of like there's not a lot of mistakes you can make in Prosperous Universe, I feel. I mean, there's some, but yeah, an idle planet is one of them. All right, so the MTC situation. MTC is made on EOS, electronics planet. Got 136 there. We're gonna have to send a ship over there. So I try never to fly a ship empty. Let's see what they got going on here. All right, the planet's running a little low on. I usually keep a 45-day buffer everywhere. So let's resupply. Eos. We'll do one of the fast ships. Since this is just consumables, it'll probably fit. These fast ships are 500 by 500, so they're not huge. And then I'll fill whatever's left on the ship with probably aluminum. As we see, that's down to 13 days. And the software that's low there, like I'll just rebalance the output if that starts getting too low. So here, yeah, the ship's almost full. We'll throw in some aluminum. And off you go. And that's 39 minutes. We'll probably take care of that during the stream. Then we can get that MTC going. All right. Griffinstone, chemistry. Griffinstone is all AMLs. So it's got a lot of stuff to ship out. Go through beryllium pretty quickly. And that one's full. Send it back to Ant. And we'll take a look. There's a second ship here. Unload it. Fill the second one up. That one's full. Send it back to Ant. And I don't have time to click. I should fly those ships slower, but it just takes too long if you're trying to manage every little thing. You really got to optimize for your clicks when you get to a certain point, because you don't want to burn out. You don't want to spend forever doing this. All right. This planet makes SSC and MHL. SSC when I need it. Kind of those other weird welding parts. It's a little far out to be making the Taurus segments once we start getting that. So Hecaton was originally set up to be a place where gateway items would be produced, including at the time we knew GWS was going to be a 5,000 ton item, but we didn't know about the HCBs. So we had this all planned out where everything would be made on site. So Hecaton was set up as a planet, like it was going to have the gateway around it. Hef was going to have a gateway around it. Both of those planets would be making the GWS on site. And now that we have HCBs, that's not necessary. So this is kind of just turned into a welding planet. It's too bad because it has a really cool name. But it chews through iodine and iron pretty quick when you're doing that. And if you switch it to SSC, it chews through aluminum really quickly. So, all right, that planet's set. IA 151D is one of Evo's planets, and that is one for me that is also AMLs. So we got some beryllium. All right. And this planet, I extract TAI here, the tantalite rock for making tantalum. I extract too much of it. The planet just fills up. So I can mix in. So I mix in a little borosilicate production here for engines. So that's nice because it takes the aluminum that the beryllium is an output of the beryllium. So that's pretty convenient. And you can see here, oh look, I'm making 15 tungsten. That's because and 1,000 EPO at a time. That's because the planet, it filled up. So thanks to people who take crap on the local market there when my planet gets full. So I try to not have spaceships land when I'm asleep, but I don't always adjust the time. So if stuff arrives after 6, that's great. All right. Then we got our 2 STL ships. I see that what I usually do, like this is a great system, and I try to rope people into building on Thalassa. So you've got Ice Station Alpha, which is one of the best water planets in the game. Really great, produces a ton of water really quickly. You ship it right over to Thalassa B, where we've got hydroponic facilities. Thalassa D can run incinerators. You can make carbon right there. And Thalassa A runs food production. So, like, you've got your water for drinking water. You've got your crops for making rations. Like, everything in the system, you put an STL ship in this system, and, like, it just kind of takes care of itself. So I like it a lot. And then all I need to do is I just centralize all the shipping on Planet A, and I'll bring an HCB there, and it'll fill up with carbon and rations. So yeah, it's a great system for sure. Yeah. And like and there's probably room for it to grow even. I know, let's take a look. So I don't have a base on E. But what do they run in there? Oh, there's no COGC there. So, okay, that's a little, I guess it's kind of abandoned. But those four are great. And you know, they run, you need sealant or whatever on them, but it's fine. All right, so we sent all the ships back that we care about dealing with. And yeah, it's oh yeah, the meteorite density is a thing. So like I think I do have shields on this ship. Let's see if that's true. Oh, maybe it's not. All right. Something to think about. Should. But honestly, running slow, this ship doesn't need repairs too often. Because when you have a dedicated STL ship, you can usually just slow boat it around. It's never really urgent because you have so much in-system shipping. All right, so now usually we'll go through the burn a little bit. All right, so this looks abysmal. I realized that, especially when I told everyone I do 45-day upkeep. The reason all of these numbers are perpetually terrible is just that depending what you're running, there's just no way, there's no way to store enough metal on a planet in order to keep these planets going. So, all right. So here's a situation. This is usually how I deal with this in like the lowest maintenance way ever. We have a ton of aluminum ore. We have a ton of silicon ore. Titanium is kind of running low. So I'll cancel the repeating titanium order, go in here, and just kind of eyeball. It's like, okay, 1, 2, 3. Those 3 big orders of titanium will use up the remaining titanium ore. And then that fixes the burn complaint about that planet. And then you can kind of just go to the next one. Like, all right, this planet, EXD3, like, yeah, they need a little sorting. All right, so this is where I make my HCCs. It says we are low on gold. We're making gold here and copper. We'll just kind of rebalance a little bit there. We're low on copper ores. All right, so we'll send a ship out here. We don't have a WCB available, so we'll just send one of these guys. I see we're at 25 days of upkeep, so I don't care. That's enough. We're going to send half a ship of copper ore, and the rest of it just is already refined gold that came from somewhere else. And we'll fill that up and send that. And like, obviously a WCB would be better there, but we got what we got. So, so that'll stop that from halting production on us. There's a ton of aluminum on this planet. What were we going to do with that? I don't even know where that came from. I mean, I guess it's just for the red gold production. So we'll let that one keep on chugging. All right, Nike, you got to pay attention to that planet. So Nike is my only triple permit. And the reason for that is that we are running at 176% efficiency. We got the corp headquarters here, plus the experts, plus the COGC. So I try to weight it towards the expensive PP4 buildings. So this planet is low on, what do we got? Glass. So like, I fill this stuff up manually usually. It is normally my TRS planet, and I took a pause on that for a little while. All right, excuse me. So we need some TCS if we want to get going on HSE there. I know that a lot of people tend to like get a stable setup going, and a lot of my planets aren't, just because I need to make so many different things at different times. So they require a little extra management. We're not making RSE, and we're low on it, so we should queue this up. So you can see the balance changes on the screen when you add things. So we'll throw some epoxy in. Do we have nano resin? We do have nano resin. And the rest should be titanium and steel, I think. So let's do titanium, steel, and that'll do us for now. And that's 5 hours, so that's not too bad. We'll have that coming. Yeah, and the efficiency is, I think the best way to think about it is, yeah, you're getting product through faster. You're not decreasing the consumables that are being the production consumables, but you're reducing the workforce consumables by that amount. So they just eat that much fewer FIM or rations or whatever. So you want to pick the buildings that have expensive workers in them, and you also want to pick buildings that have a lot of workers per unit area. So you can kind of look. You can kind of do like, a lot of people would have chosen back in the day, oh yeah, I'm going to pick like software labs. I'm making IDC somewhere. Software labs are a 20 area with 20 scientists in them. They just don't have a lot of population. That's also why government upkeep, you pay per citizen. You don't pay per unit area on the base. But you look at the PP4, it's 40 area, but it's got 70 workers, but they're a lower tier worker. So like you kind of can balance that out and calculate like what's the value of that for you. And then the concession I make here is that like, yeah, I'm mixing in PP2s and PP3s on the planet, and that just makes the vertical integration easier. So I don't need to be flying fabs from one planet to another. That's something I might like. I've thought a lot about just dropping the PP2 and buying all of those LFabs, but it's a concession. Like it works. Mostly, at some point these LFabs were mostly getting turned into the higher tier stuff. With the gateway stuff that's been mixed in, it kind of throws a wrench into a lot of that. So let's see. I think I'm going to queue up the HSE because even though the TCS isn't here yet, the TCS will be there soon in 5 or 6 hours, so we can get that going. And I do have other people helping out with the production of HSE and PSH to go into the TRS, and other people making TRS. And I have slowed down on the conversion of before every single TRS I was getting was being turned into an SDM. And I'm slowing down a little on that to keep them in balance, because when we can make gateway segments, we'll need a couple TRS along with the SST, which contains the SDM. So it's a big chain. Yeah. And yeah, like the market is big now, in a way that I assume you'll never run into a case where you're gonna like, oh, I can't find LDE on the market. Like there's no market maker for it, but it seems like it should be pretty available. Like I'd expect that. And you can do the you also got to take a look at like what the price is. Like go through Prime Planner and check like how much your base would be making with those. Because I recently got more aggressive about like, oh, you know, if I need something, I put in a lot of orders. Like if I regularly use small wafers and they're priced under the 60,000 per 500 $60,000 per day per 500 area base threshold, I should be buying those instead of making those. So that's kind of how I make that decision. And it's just kind of tough to keep on top of those buy orders sometimes. So I'm working on some tools for that. All right, so Nike's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and move to the next item on the list. Retooling these SME bases. So I previously had an extractor set up doing aluminum on Deimos and iron on Vulcan. Those are both good planets for extraction. And it saves a lot of ore shipping to just to have that stream going in there. That constant stream of like resources coming in and being used immediately. But with aluminum being so cheap, and I also have a desperate need for more ASM time because we are going to be doing the gateway ore. So I've got to stay on top of that. So the plan is to retool both of these a little bit. The ship kit factory is actually new on Vulcan, and it chews through a lot of metal. I've kind of been buying metal for it in order to keep it going. Or just like, I had a stockpile of like 2,000 FET, so that all got turned into LSLs. I'm not sure, like ship kit factories are notoriously hard to feed, and I had previously relied on other people in the corp. You know, someone will build one and anyone can just send them a big pile of metal and get their LCBs or whatever they need out of it. So this might actually come out also. But let's start off with this planet here. All right, so the extractor, demolish. And I think I am going to take out all of the SMEs, in fact. So let's take a look at this planet. Let's do a plan for this. Where's my sidebar? I lost my sidebar. There it is. All right, so for this planet, I am gonna nuke the EXTs. I think we're gonna nuke the SMEs. Normally what I'm making in the hull plates are these two, ATP and AWH. There's kind of no use for the mid-tier shields. You know, you should probably only build the best shields. Like, what is this? The basic Whipple shields? Like, no, yeah. Let's even go. Let's go through them. Yeah. Yeah. Basic Whipple shielding. No, just get the advanced. Like, what's the? You know, you need CTF instead of CFTK. Like, it's harder to make, sure, but you're putting it on a ship. And same with these other hull types, hardened hull. Like, there's just not a use case for them. So you've only got these two things to make here. Maybe LHP, which you can probably get on the CX for a really good price. So the hull welding plant, you know, we'll keep it for now. I have some Techno Kevlar coming in. But everything else is going to turn into ASMs. So let's crank that up. How many? Where's my area count? All right. Oh, here we go. 500, 500. Does this have the correct number of storage units? We have we have 2 in place here. You know what? I haven't used this a lot since they redid the tool. Prun Planner 2 came out. We have 2 storage. Okay. And it auto optimizes for area. We always want to do area. These buttons don't do anything. All right, whatever. Okay, so I also like to try to fill up, like massage it a little bit so we fill up all of the, fill these up evenly. Ooh, if I drop the, if I drop that, it kind of simplifies things. Do I want to do just an ASM planet? I kind of do. Okay, let's do that. And then the recipe that it's going to be running is going to be these guys. But they don't have a price on them, so obviously that's going to be nonsense. And like, you know, a lot of these aren't traded very heavily, really, in my finding. So, all right, so we got a planet set up. We've got our CM. We need 3 HB3s, 2 HB4s. Kind of what I do is I will just go through and say, okay, we have 2 3s and 1 4 right now. So we need 3 and 1, 0. The ASMs, we have 4, so we need 6. So here's our shopping list. Then we can extract it, run it in action. And if you're not familiar with how XIT actions work, this is it. It's amazing. We've got our list. We'll load it up into the first ship we've got here. Here's what we need to bring. All that stuff is sitting around in my Antares warehouse, so we'll do that. We got a question. At what point do you stop aiming for more permits? I still grow my permit count. Basically, my approach has been like when I needed to add 2 permits for the gateway stuff. So like I made that happen. I guess I haven't been super aggressive about it lately. We can kind of let's go ahead and like look up. Let's see what my permit history is. Yeah, okay. So March 31, April 32, 32, 32, 32, then August 34, 34, 35 this month. So yeah, there's been like 3 permits in the last couple months. So it's pretty slow. It takes, obviously it's expensive at this point to grow your permit count. Yeah. It's mostly a matter of like, oh, it's just, and I think I did tear down a base or 2 in that time to kind of rebalance things. I would keep going with permits. It's mostly just like the lower priority compared to gateway stuff for me. Yeah, yep, yeah. Try to get we keep a lot. It's nice. It'll give you the planets you're governor of. It shows all the trades for people, like what they've got open. You can see I've got 2 million in buys, 6 billion in sells. But this Intel tool is something we use when evaluating like new people. you can kind of get a sense of, what are they making? You get their kind of their basics. How long have they been around? What planets are they on? What are they trading in? Stuff like that. So this is one of the tools. We're recruiting. If you like good tools and good player cooperation. Yeah. All right. So we transferred everything to FA6. FA1 through FA6 are all shielded. So those are kind of my mainstay ships. Let's look at. All right, so supplying this planet now that it's going to be all ASMs. We should prep it. We've got a little time before the rhenium comes in. That's not true. It's here. All right. Okay. Let's ship that over there. Let's get that going. All right. We got the new metal. First time holding it. First time in a spaceship. Exciting. So let's get this over. We need to plan. This isn't enough to make one of the new any of the new items. So, but I think we're going to start with the tungsten in the ASM, and I think we also are going to keep making. I need more HTBs. Let's make more of this alpha stabilized tungsten. So we'll just fill this thing up with metals. I feel like I'm going to need a couple more WCBs just for all this stuff. Like, we'll go over that. So let's get this ship over here. After I build it, I'll deal with the consumables. All right, we can get there in 2 hours, 22 minutes. We can do that today. The stream will probably be over by then, but let's get that going. All right, so let's do something similar on Vulcan. Yep, witnessing history. Yeah. And we are ramping up. Let's go take a look at the leaderboard. This is how I keep track of. Oh, leaderboard's working today. Oh, okay. Supernova. These are new entries in Supernova Foundation. Yeah, so we've got a big group of people from OOG all making rhenium. So I'm going to send, so we've got, 100, 200, 300, 400, 700 RE made already. We can collect some of that. We'll probably collect some of that and ship it out today. Yeah, we should get that going. All right, so let's tear down these buildings in prep. I nuked the whole welding plant, so that'll be done in 20 minutes, so we'll let that finish. Let's tear down the SMEs. So we have great automated tools for repairing stuff, but when it comes to tearing down bases, you got to do it one at a time. That's okay. It only happens once a month, so. And then we'll wait on that. All right, Vulcan. Vulcan just fills up with. So the other thing I'm trying to move towards is making my bases narrower. When you end up with bases that have I want to be able to fit more bases on a screen to simplify all of that. And when you have a base with 4 different building types on it, it gets wider. So that's the kind of things that I'm thinking about. So let's at least take out these extractors. You see we have a really lumpy population here. There's 40 settlers, 60 engineers. That also means more clicks in the XIT action, just because you're going to have 20 different types of consumables. So, it's nice to get that down. I think on Vulcan we'll do. Let's go ahead and take a look at Vulcan. We'll probably squeeze one more ASM in there, and then try to keep things from getting too crazy. Yeah, four bases is pretty good. Or I mean, sorry, fitting 6 bases on your default. Sorry, I didn't mean to refresh that. 6 bases on a screen is nice. I could maybe cut mine down a little. All right, so this is a different Vulcan. Oh, okay, this was pretty close. All right, so we'll nuke those. We'll add 1 SME gets us to 996 area. So I think that's what we're gonna have. Okay, so we need sorry, one extra ASM. So let's try to figure out what these population buildings are. 4 HB1s. Oh, I made it too narrow. It doesn't fit. All right. Slide it over a little bit. 4 HB1s. That's unchanged. We have one more HB3. We have an HB4. An HBC. See, like we're just shuffling things around, and that's kind of a pain in the butt because we have to tear down HBMs and HBBs to make HBCs. I screwed that up. All right, do over. All right, 1, 0, 0. HB3s, we need one more. HB4s, we need one more. HBC, we need one more. KF we have. SMEs, we'll keep all 7. There's 5 stow there, and that's because the planet always fills up with iron ore, which won't quite be a problem now. We're gonna leave that now. That's a lot. Ooh. 1 screen per 29 base for 29 bases. 1 screen each. That's a lot. That's just too many. All right, so here's a pile of junk. Let's go ahead, close that, and ship it over. Yeah, I mean, I used to play before we had actions, and it was rough. So these are kind of the junk ships. Are pickles and potato. And so many ships. These are just the 2Ks that are lightweight hull plates and no shields, QCRs and FSEs. So like they're good, but they're just kind of the random ones. I'd like to upgrade them all for consistency because some of these ships are different. Like they'll just randomly have one will have a different size fuel container or stuff like that, and it's a little goofy. So we have titanium, we have aluminum, we have iron, we have a lot of tungsten here. This planet will bring aluminum ore to kind of keep that going. So I usually just buy in bulk like that. Just kind of click one, fill it up. We got lots of storage, so send that over. 4 hours, we can fix that up. All right. Let's take a look at colony ships. People, I bet, would love to see that. All right, so the setup that we've got going on here, and these kind of need to be retooled a little bit. Hecate is the, I hope that's how you say that. I don't know. Kind of the staging planet. It's got the shipyard where we built the colony ship. So we needed to put a base there, build the shipyard, build all that stuff. Let's go ahead and open up the map. I never use the in-game map, but we can go ahead and take a look for people who haven't seen. So that's down here. uh, I put a permit. I had to put a base down for it, so you had to put a permit on there. So it's making PSL because that's something I can do with like basically zero attention. You just bring piles of PG there, and it'll make it, and you can forget about it. So that planet's settled there. That's where we jumped from there to Eremos, because we wanted the shortest jump possible. Because longer jumps would take longer, and someone else might beat us to the RE. So we got there. Here we are. Everybody's running these. Oh, let's upgrade this. Everybody's running these identical bases of 4. They started off with identical bases. So our strategy here, which I think I can share publicly now that it's kind of done. The strategy here was to bring in as many people as we can, because each person you bring in, each new base gives you 200 pioneers. So if you just had one base and you maxed it out, you have to sit there and wait for the population to grow. But if you bring 10 people over, each person can basically fill up this, this base. 2 extractors, 3 smelters is 270. You're most of the way there with your starting 200. And then you keep the happiness at 100%. And then you'll get like the 30% natural growth from the 100% population. Plus, you'll get the 500 new pioneers every government program. The Poppy report is coming in 1 day. So right before that, look, stuff just disappeared. Stuff's happening. So right before that, we want to build up the next set of buildings, because we want to maintain open jobs, but we don't necessarily want to sit there on having like a ton of them just laying around. So the instructions for everybody was here. Stage 2 is add 3 more HP1s, 2 AXTs, and 3 SMEs. So I'm going to do the same here. 1, 2, 3 HB1s, get 2 EXTs, and 3 more SMEs. And we'll still have open jobs, but we'll be getting a lot of population. So a lot of them will be filled. And we'll just let that run. So I have my Pioneer 1 colony ship parked here. Looking good. Having done 3 flights already. Oh, hey, look at this. It doesn't act. There's no operating time for the colony ship. Because it has spent 11 and a half days in vortex flight already. It's just not represented on there. That's interesting. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to collect all of the RE that we can get here. And we'll throw it in the colony ship. And we're looking at a pretty good pile of it. So the catch is that it's always a little tedious. We'll have to go through the list, because everybody's going to have a different number, a different amount of it. So I guess bear with me a little bit. Melon has 65. Yeah, it's definitely something that's going to require a lot of coordination, because each, it's like back in the old days of Prosperous Universe when OOG built our first ship. It was a 2K ship, and it was considered a corp asset, basically. It'd be like, hey, who wants what delivered where? We'll try to fill up the ship. So that was a lot of coordination that happened back then, that like now it's not even, like no one would ever think to do that amount of coordinating effort just to fly those ships around. We did, I did use Pioneer consumable bundles for the first time, just so it's less stuff to ship out here and less contracts. So like, hey, that's pretty cool to see it being used in that really helpful way like that. So we got Vec Fact. Oops, this is Mr. Smith. We have had more than one Mr. Smith in our corp over the years. Popular name. All right, and we got 40 here. But I do a lot, I do less contracts than some other corps where they centrally manage production. So at least we got that going on for me. Really hopeful that we can cut down one day the number of clicks required for this. All right. So I think some of those got filled. We'll go through here. All right, we got some. Thank you, everybody. So those will. Oh, all right. So this is the gateway stuff. Let's go ahead and log that. Where's my gateway co-op? Okay, so this is what I mean about double checking. It's like if I forgot to enter it previously, now I would enter the whole row. If you hit Control semicolon, it enters today's date and time. Pro tip. All right, so that's 10 million worth of stuff, so that's good. Like for some weird reason, the RFABs had been and RSC we're still short on RSC. Like most of these are at 100% minus the big gateway items. And some of these are, and those are all these are all under construction. So, but I think it will still be a challenge with some of them, just because of the sheer amount of HSE and PSH required for the TRS that's in the gateway segments and the TRS that's required outside of the gateway segments. So that'll be a lot. All right, we got a question. Oh, hey, our ship arrived here. Let's get that going. We have a question about colony ship usefulness after gateways are up. I think that, so theoretically, you can build a gateway to get into the void space, the void regions. And then you don't need those colony ships to bring stuff in and out of the void regions. I doubt that will happen just because the volume required for the current gateways as they stand is so high that it kind of just doesn't make sense to build a gateway just to bring RE in and out. And especially the void space that we chose is really far from Antares, the CX. Moria has some that are closer to their CX, I think. So maybe that's tenable. Maybe that's the planets in there are better, but not drastically. They have more resources, especially they have more line items of resources. I don't know if the purity is much better. I think it's a little better, but in order to justify building out a lot of industry inside a void space region, you probably need to have new resources, or, we're talking off the charts levels of, you'd need double the extraction rate of something that you would have somewhere else. You'd need twice as much water being extracted per rig in order to make that worth considering. And I think you won't have a gateway out there until, this is a really long answer to your question. I think you won't have a gateway out there unless you had actual industry other than just RE rhenium ore happening there. So the colony ships will keep running in and out of the void space, but probably only for RE. Can you use colony ships for other flights? The answer is that they're limited. The distance they're limited to is 12 parsecs per 5,000 VF. So you can either go up to 12 and go back, or you can go 24 parsecs, assuming you have fuel on the other end. The 24 parsec jump is going to take 6 days, and that's longer than it would take you to fly. Like, even if you're shortcutting across, you know, even if you're shortcutting across a big branch like this here, that's like, okay, what's the distance? Like, some of these, like, okay, that's too far to jump. There's something here that's kind of in range. You have to piece it together. Like, even if you were shortcutting that, like, you'd be better off flying an FTL ship, because it's a 6-day trip in a colony ship. So I think colony ships are only going to be viable for the thing that only they can do, which is void sector travel. Yeah. Let's see if I can. Sometimes it is trouble showing names, because this is the version that I made, and I don't know how to. React is weird. All right, so if you're going from like one of them, like somewhere in Moria, like WX is pretty close, is actually pretty close, especially if you end up doing a gateway from like one of these closer spots. This in gateway range, this in gateway range. There's probably something here that can get you. You'll have to play around. Like, you can use this map and the other map to kind of try to figure out what might be in range. But like, let's go ahead and click through here. Like, hey, this planet's got 4 resources. H2O here's garbage. Oh, sorry, I'm off the. H2O here is garbage. Like, are you going somewhere to get a really good LST limestone and then ship the limestone back? That's never going to happen. I think, when we looked into this previously, it's like, oh, you could, maybe you could get a setup where you can make PG or some particular chemical all in one place because it's got the resources for it. And like, that is tenable because there's not a lot of shipping back and forth you have to do. But, people will sit down and say like, oh, well, what's required to start up a whole industry chain? And the answer is kind of everything. Yeah, look at, like, there's a lot of these that are sitting at like 2 to 3%, which I can't fathom ever wanting to extract from those. So even though you're looking at these planets where there's a ton of, they have more resources than average, I don't think these are generally too useful. And I don't know if these are normalized or not, or if those are kind of the absolute numbers on that map. So that's kind of my view on that. Yeah, I am pretty confident that they will be adding more infrastructure structures. What that's going to be, I don't know. But they basically, for building gateways, they set up so much code backend infrastructure to support, dozens of other types of things potentially. Sure, why not? Like, it feels like it wouldn't make sense to do that for them not to add other cool stuff. That's just pure speculation though. It's hard to say because we know that, like, oh, they added contexts. I'm sure it was in everybody's the back of their head that like, oh, your corporation should have a context too, not just kind of the government's, because we have this tool for making contexts. Your corp could have one. I assume that's somewhere in the backlog and some kind of vague idea. So when they make things like that, I hope to get as much use, as many cool things as we can see out of them. All right, so we're just gonna send this straight to straight to the SPT planet. This is one of the few times, like if a planet is waiting for something, let's send it. That's kind of unnecessarily rushed delivery, but that's okay. Yeah, who would have thought we'd be out of MTC, that we would need more MTC? Yeah, and yeah, H2O extraction is kind of the start, the core for everything. You know, you need the H2O to make the carbon, and you need carbon to make everything. So like that's kind of the like, but I think it's a myth to say that you need to do the full chain from the beginning there. And if you just want to cut down, so we have someone in Corp who's doing carbon inside the BN sector. And that'll be good because we need carbon to smelt the ores there inside the sector before shipping them out, which I'm really glad they did that. If you're not familiar, let me show you what I'm talking about. So it's 8 ore to make 5 rhenium, and the ore is 12 tons each, and the metal is 3 tons each. So you totally should be smelting that on site. Like if you want to fill the colony ship with the ore and haul it somewhere to smelt it, you're moving a lot less product than if you're smelting it in site. So that means that you at least have 2 interesting things to do inside BN space, and that's extract and smelt, which I'm really glad for, that like they found a way to, you know, like the more stuff that you incentivize to happen there, the more interesting it is, I feel like. Because we had a lot. I know Kawa, for example, is doing, let's take a look at this lead again. Let's do REO. So you see that there's actually a lot more people pulling ore. Oh, it's messed up the table. A lot more people doing ore than the metal. It's kind of it changes over time, so I'm figuring out. So Captain Coleslaw, I don't know if you're in the chat today. He's extracting with us in BE. He's doing the ore there, and I think they had someone else on planet running the SMEs, which is normally a good suggestion. We have a different Captain Waffles, no relation. I believe they have someone else on planet doing the smelting. So then you can do your experts. So you've got, you know, 1 extraction experts, 1 metallurgy experts. And normally I'd say like, yeah, that's great. You have a little more back and forth. But I think for us, the right answer was to do it all at once because it cuts down on the number of contracts. We can balance knowing what everybody's efficiencies are, and we can just organize them that way, less back and forth. And also, like, you know, we had someone drop out who wasn't able to get a permit to make a base out there, and that's fine. Someone else can substitute in. So these are really independent bases. And then when we say, oh, we have enough RE, we can say, hey, 3 people shut down your base, or whatever the case is, however many we need. Because that was also, we did the exact same approach with Krypton. It's like, wow, look at this list now. It doesn't even fit on one page. Where we had 5-ish people start Krypton bases. We started them early. We got, everybody got a couple experts going. So we could be ready for when the material arrived on the planet. And then when that happened, we got a ton of Krypton, shipped it as quickly as we can to get those vortex engines started under production. And then, like, we've already shut down some of those bases. And now we're transitioning them from being pure Krypton to also doing the Kryptonium production on the same planet. And that'll simplify some of that stuff. So yeah. And you see that, like, it's really interesting for Krypton because a lot of people are making Krypton and where is it going? Because they're not all making KRE out of it, and it's only useful for KRE. So I think it's going to pile up on the, yeah, you can see in Moria, it's piling up, I think. Wow, look at all those different names. People just got it with, I assume they just didn't have a way to, they just didn't have the EEPs set up for it. Is it moving? It's kind of moving. It's kind of trading a little bit. A little bit. Yeah, I mean, at this point with this much on the market, I probably wouldn't start a Krypton base if I needed to make Vortex fuel. So, yeah, and it's a little bummer that Ant didn't have the Krypton at an accessible place. So, but that's fine. Like, I'm totally happy with that challenge as like, hey, we can hunt one down. Like we got, let's see if this works. Oh, yeah. All right. So here are the dots for Krypton. Hopefully I'm not sure if you can see them in the stream very well. So we've got one way over here. This is the one that we went for. AW006 Zephyrus. And like it ended up honestly, I underestimated the flight durations in our vortex planning. That was kind of one of the things that slowed us down a little bit, because I built these two fast. I have some fast ships, but I built these two like halfway through that process of the vortex engine, because I was like, oh man, all of this shipping, it just takes too long to ship the component parts down. But our Krypton was actually kind of delayed because it takes, right? Like, so we're on Ant. Oh, let's not send the HCB. Let's send, like, this is a fast ship. This is one of my fast ships. We want to go get the Krypton. And that is a 2-day trip out and a 2-day trip back. And like pumping it up, it doesn't get drastically faster. So we ran into a case where it's like, oh, we have Krypton to ship back, but like we forgot building materials, and like there's not a ship sitting there between the 5 people who are out there. Like, we didn't have a ship ready to haul Krypton back. So we had to fly one over and then fly one back. So that kind of slowed us down on that. Like we had the EEPs ready, and my EEPs are in, a bunch of us have EEPs in Origo, and that's kind of far out away from Antares already. I think that's a day trip also. So we were, 10 hours. So like that's a trip out. Then you have to make sure nobody's asleep, or you set alarm clocks to wake people up. We had a lot of alarm clocks going when we were doing the, I don't know. I like you try really hard to get things at like between 6 a.m. and midnight, which is still not enough sleep. But there were cases where it's like, okay, wake up, try to send a ship, try not to, you're really sleepy, try not to mess up the flight, of trying to get those first VOR done, and also like the ham. We had all of this stuff in place for the ham, and then the TCU got eaten by a CQS that was in the queue accidentally, so we had to ship out another TCU real quick to start the ham. So I think it was neck and neck for the Vortex reactor and Vortex engine being produced. It was definitely really, really fast. And it came to the point where it's like, yeah, I'm going to build these ships just to deliver the Vortex engines down to Hecate, because that's also like a super long flight. So, you add up all the 5-day, 6-day, 7-day, or 15-day for the ham production times, but you forget that like, oh, this takes 2 days to get out there. And that's assuming everybody's ready to click contracts. Because I did want to distribute, I did want to get as many people involved in that process as possible. Yeah, any questions about the colony ship construction from our audience? Colony ship, the vortex engines, or the stuff with the... let's take another peek. So let's load this up. We got 173. All right. We got room for a lot more. So, well, we'll wait a little while for everybody's metal to come in before sending that out. And then the poppy ticks over in 24 hours, and then our production will definitely double, I would say. So that'll be good. I didn't expect colony ships to use so much PFE. Carry, probably. Oh, the PFE in the... oh, yeah, 1,000 in the ham. That's right. I remember that. Yep. Fortunately, I had that. I think I had that mostly laying around because... yeah, okay. Because I use a ton of that for the parks on the planets I govern. So it's hard to find, but it's actually a really good resource for parks. It's better than soil, not quite as good as drinking water, but if you can get it, I recommend filling your parks up with this stuff for sure. And you can see it's pretty thin, and the spread is pretty huge on it. But usually, even at 900 a unit, it's really... Here, I was actually just telling someone about this. Oh, okay. So at 500 a unit, it's as good as drinking water in the park. And really, drinking water is your best option, because if you look here, the 48. Okay, that's a good option. You'll probably have a couple 48s. The mixed buildings, they often just don't produce a lot, right? So 166 satisfaction of comfort is not going to get you super far necessarily, especially on big planets. A lot of the big planets end up with you're going to have 10 parks because that's what you need. So you're going to do drinking. Then you have to look, okay, drinking water, PFE, probably have to do soil. Usually avoid doing FOD. I see FOD right now, like that's pretty comparable. $4.1 per satisfaction, $5 per satisfaction. That's pretty good. And then after that, yeah, you probably don't need more than that. Like that'll probably cover most of your bases. Yeah, let's take a look. Next thing on my list was, let's go ahead and look at Malahat governance. So Phobos has been... I just took care of Phobos a couple days ago. That's in a really interesting spot because we had a player who was leaving the game donate a ton of stuff, which is super great. Like they upgraded a bunch of buildings kind of randomly, and like that's really helpful. They filled up a lot of the upkeeps. Some of the things that they just had on stock would be things that I don't normally fulfill. So like I have to burn down the I think the test tubes in the inf, and then we can just keep supplying the stretchers. I think that's kind of the setup right now. So, and then we'll probably get hospitals after the hospital buff. Like hospitals are good now. Like it's great. We can mix and match. We can fine tune. So, there's 8 or 10 infirmaries some places, but if you add 1 or 2 hospitals, that allows you to fine tune. Like hospitals will be fine tuning the large amount coming from the inf. Because a lot of times you'll say like, oh, well, 2 resources in the SST isn't enough, but 3 is too much. So then you want to have some kind of tool for dealing with that. Like Evo has a thing where he will partially fill consumption cycles, but that requires kind of an unrealistic amount of micromanagement, especially for a big planet. So you want to find a tool other than that. But Malahat is in a different situation because it's a lot more stable. Let's pop out the population report. So Malahat underwent some interesting stuff when the IDC bases changed. So people have kind of been transitioning what they're making on Malahat, what population is getting used. Like someone built Pioneer bases there. I don't, it's like, I can't stop them obviously, but it's not ideal because it kind of shifts the delicate balance that is the Malahat population. But the things that I'm looking at here will basically ignore pioneers and settlers. Really just focused on the unemployment amounts for engineers and scientists, and they are looking really good. I see that comfort capped education, which is a little bit of an oopsie, but that's still fine because our populations are in pretty good spots, and 25% is on the high side, so we'll probably want to allow that to burn down a little bit, like it's doing. The unemployment number is subtracted directly from the happiness number, so the reason we have happiness like this is because it's 25% lower. So the only thing to watch out for is if your scientists start cratering, they can crater a lot faster than you can add them back in. So you can lose them, 5 or 10 times more quickly than you can recover them. So you just got to stay on top of that to make sure that doesn't happen. So the Malahat screens a lot. I think I have a ship. Okay, I do have a ship in flight with PFE and soil, and that is 3 hours out. So I figured that's important for getting that comfort up. We do have... I'll go ahead and partial fill this. So, record as a governor, record keeping is the most important part of the job, I guess. We had really contentious elections in years past, and keeping an accurate ledger that is verifiable, right? So I take a screenshot every single time I put anything in. So you can click on the screenshot and check all of these numbers to make sure I did it right. You can go through the old motions and make sure that they match up with the amounts that were debited from the actual payouts. So everything is taken care of accurately, and it's a lot of work, and I don't do it for the small planets, but for the big planets, I do keep track of that stuff. All right, question from the audience. Is there a sweet spot for using education programs? Education programs are great and super effective when you're trying to grow. I would consider them essential. But you have to be at a certain level of population. So an education program, let's see if I can find one without. An education program on Malahat is the difference between 300 people getting educated and 600 people getting educated. If you have migration out, the education in is basically your tool to fight migration out of high tier populations. It also pulls people up from the previous tiers because the alternative might be running festivals, and festivals are going to cause some serious bloat in your lower tiers. So basically, education is the only way that you can target higher tiers without targeting lower tiers. It's kind of the only way to prevent bloat from the lower levels. Your other option is to try to get your need fulfillment as flat as possible, and then you're kind of even happiness across the tiers. And that minimizes the bloat that you would get from filling safety and health, but forgetting to do comfort, culture, education, or bad situations where, comfort, culture, and education get capped. So you're putting resources into them, and then you have unhappy scientists and you have happy pioneers, and then you end up with planets, it's a challenge for Phobos. because Phobos is a starter planet that has, this is like the worst case scenario, right? It's a starter planet that has a high tier population. So Phobos has 100,000 pioneers, and they're all eating scientist and engineer needs, just at like a lower rate than they, and that had been tweaked recently, so that kind of helps the situation. But that's what your core challenge as a governor is for fixing that kind of stuff. Festivals are great if you need growth across all tiers, which almost never happens. They're great for like, there's a crisis or you're coming in and like the planet was forgotten for a couple weeks and you need to fix that. You can use a festival as maintenance for high tier populations. Like right now, Malahat's losing population mostly due to unemployment. A festival would put a stop to that because it would push us up almost to 70%. But then you'd start growing your pioneers. And the good thing about Malahat is that we used to not have any pioneers to grow. Like it was like, let's see if I can go back. Okay, so we're sitting like some of these numbers. All right, it's mostly sitting around like the 3,000, but it's not a lot overall to grow. So when you like have 20% pioneer growth, you can kind of say, oh, whatever, I don't care, because there's not that many of them to eat your stuff. And I'm still a little bit in the habit that like you should always be running a program, because if you're not, you're telling your constituents that you're not paying attention to the planet. That was the days when like anytime a governor didn't run a program, you'd catch crap for it. And not everybody understands everything about your voters don't understand how the poppy works. So you're going to get, it's hard to logically defend your actions when someone says, hey, you forgot to run a program, you messed up. So for AOS specifically, you are educating up 50 scientists per week. If you ran an education program, that would double to 100. If you ran an engineer immigration, you'd get 50. If you ran scientist immigration, you'd get 20. You are already at the size where your best option is to run the Education 3 programs kind of continuously. So I would recommend that on AOS. You've got a pretty flat, like this is a good curve, pretty flat need curve. The passive, let's look at your 3 universities. That's respectable. Your passive education bonus from just having activated universities is important. And that's kind of where that base number of 54 is coming from. In the case of Malahat, when we really wanted to grow the population, I paid people to start technician bases because we have 700 technicians every week turning into engineers, and you need those engineers to turn into scientists. So growing those technician populations was key because we were at a point where we had 15,000 engineers and 10,000 technicians. And like, that's tough because then your natural bleed is going to you're just losing stuff. AOS is in a pretty good place because, 15,000 to 3,000 to 1,000, you have kind of a natural flow that's going to work with your education numbers. Engineer unemployment's at 24%, so they're going to be a little unhappy. It's probably not at a point where I'd say, hey, go recruit people to start engineering bases on the planet. Like, that's not necessary. And part of the problem on Malahat was back then, that was the era where people only wanted to do IDCs, so they only wanted scientists. Nobody wanted engineers because they didn't want to do EDCs, and none of the other software, nobody wanted to do that because there was no demand for weak AI. Like now there's a demand for weak AI in air, in more of them in ship components than were before. But market makers use weak AI all over the place. So that means that you're going to have people who have these mixed bases like I do on GDU. You know, you're going to have SDs making MLI and BAI, and that turns right into neural networks, and that turns right into weak AI. So you have people running these bases, and you look at it, it's 500 techs, 100 engineers, 80 scientists, like something like that. So you've got this really beautiful curve, really balanced and interesting thing, like balance of populations. And that makes things a lot easier when your population, like Eos is a newer planet, so it's going to have more people are doing things like this on the planet. And that's going to make it easier for you to deal with the population setup there. So hope that helped answer that question about population there. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep it filled up the way that it has been. UTS is a good choice in art still. Just kind of top off the drinking water and everything. Top off the office supplies. A lot of the mixed use buildings now are really nice, really good. I like to fill them, and need that. Those olfactory substances are great upkeep items, and I need some more of them here. Library, I think we'll skip the library. So we were the bandages in the hospital. We'll do that. We were a little low on comfort. We are going to fill the PFE and the soil for that, especially because where are we in the cycle? 2 days into the cycle. So it already ticked once on the upkeep, maybe. Like when you start later in the cycle, you need more stuff to get the same amount of output for it. So usual situation is we take a screenshot and then we start filling out the ledger. So I just kind of go down the list. Off. We'll get the numbers in, each one of them, 15, 60, 1050, 750. And we have more PFE and soil arriving in a couple hours. So we'll take care of that then. And sometimes I annotate what building it goes into. Like in theory, someone could go through this and like draw some useful conclusions. But mostly this is just filling stuff out for the sake of filling stuff out, I guess. The building types. All right, in the ACA, we have drinking water. And like the 4DA is empty. It should. MHP and ULF are the good choices there, I think, in the EDC. One nice thing about EDC and IDC going down in price is that they didn't go down in value as a poppy item. So they become better per dollar for that. So that, you know, that's nice. They're all like people, you assume that they're just market maker items because that's what everybody did with them, but no, they're like legitimately useful and good now in that context. So that's really cool to see items kind of shift their value as the game changes. So then you contribute all of them. And I see I did the COGC already, so that's good. And then I just kind of check. All right, so what's Malahat sitting at? It looks like we got 10,900,000 worth of stuff to pay out. I usually do that when yeah, they're good for changing currencies. You can ship them around if you're not in a rush. I always try to convert mine directly into AIC because, you know, it's the world's dominant currency, right? It's the best region in the game. So I don't, but I'm not sure if I'm supposed to increase the currency count in Antares to improve their dominance, or do I turn it into something else and devalue that currency by making more of it? Like, I don't know. It's a really interesting question. So we are due to have our education programs. So you can queue up 2 at a time of these workforce programs, which once you're going, I recommend that because you have to do this less often. And then there's the payout, which got to make sure to get the currency correct because which is not that currency. Malahat uses this one. And we need 10,904,040. And I try to get, a lot of people give them funny names, so I try to keep them. This is 2 education plus payouts. And unfortunately, this takes 24 hours. I don't get motion notifications for some reason. So I'm always the guy who, as an MP, misses the votes. If you need me for a vote, ping me. Yeah, I don't know. These unread ones, like they may or may not be votes that I have to pay attention to. So like we can take a look at what's going on for one of these and see. Sometimes switching contexts is funny. Just start that over. Shift refresh. Shift refresh fixes it pretty much every time. Okay. So this passed 7 days ago. And right, like, well, what the motion? Wait a minute. The motion is old, but it just passed. The motion is 7 days ago. It ended a day ago. All right. Well, like I said, if you need me to vote on something, you got to ping me on Discord. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. All right. I usually check contracts as they come in. We got 100 ATP, not to be confused with APT. Got it. Man, you got to stay on top of that one. And we got 240,000 NFI. Who would have thought we'd be dealing with those kind of numbers of NFI? But we need it for PSH, so let's take it. We got a shipment. Oh, good. All right. Yeah, 400 SPT. That's a 2K ship worth. So definitely need that help shipping because Romulan tends to fill up. I should have built. I don't know. I should have put those somewhere closer, but I think nobody was aware that SPT was going to generate that much stuff. Right? So SPT, you run every 12 hours, each CLF makes 100, and they're 5 cubic meters each. So that's 500 cubic meters of stuff. And I've got 4 of them. So it goes, yeah. So that's 2,000 times 2. So that's 4,000 cubic meters per day on that planet. So that's just about an HCB every day. Oh, and that's at 100% efficiency, at 160. So that's over an HCB a day worth of stuff to ship off that planet. Which makes me think that I definitely made a mistake by saying, by discount, like, I do all the shipping for the Gateway project for free, basically, because I didn't calculate any of that. So that's something to think about. Have to. I don't know. It's probably too late in the process, the organizational process, to make a meaningful change about that. But I'll just try to rope. I think once we get to shipping to the gateway addresses themselves, I will try to rope other people into that. And then it should be fun for them because, like, hey, you're flying to an orbital location. That's something you haven't done yet in Prosperous Universe. Please fly there and haul my garbage. because it is too much. The good news is that my Antares, I'm almost full on weight, but I have lots of volume left because all the metal. So I can store big piles of it on the CX at least. But I have been storing it on the CX itself because it's too much to store. Same thing, right? Like PSH, this 4000 PSH just doesn't fit in storage. I think I have HSE. Let's see if that's true. Gosh, yeah. All right. Oh, okay, there's 200s. I don't know why that's on there. It's pretty tough to keep track of my orders. I don't know. Let's take that down. Because when I balance the gateways, I'll forget it exists, and then I'll freak out. All right. Yeah, definitely crowdsource the shipping. Yeah, for sure. Next on the item is ship construction inventory. I have ships for sale that I have been negligent in tracking. Let's go ahead and take a look. So I do use some tools to track. I do use FIO to track my ship stock somewhat, but it's a little it's flaky, and it's more flaky due to FIO doesn't work with the new colony ships. So if you own a colony ship and you try to upload your inventory, it will crash. And there was a patch to fix that a little bit, and I'm not exactly sure if it's working or not. But yeah, there's one thing you notice about the fuel tank only takes vortex fuel. It's bigger. You can't. It's reported as an FTL fuel tank, but you can't put FF in it. And in FIO, we get errors. But do we have the inventory error? Maybe that one's fixed. Let's try to figure that out. We can figure that out together. Let's see what we got here. So the inventory gets pulled in from a different sheet, which I will track down off screen a little bit. And then it gets pulled into my stock column here. And this is also one of the sheets get untenable at a certain size, so I'm kind of moving towards JavaScript tools that interface with FIO, because the weak link is usually Google Docs and the way that it deals with imports and stuff like that. So that's usually where things go wrong in these like tracking issues. So we have our imported inventory somewhere in this disaster collection of sheets. Okay. So the burn is there, the inventory is here, and this kind of longish thing. Oh, and I sometimes use a mix of the old and the new FIO, which probably doesn't help, because like they track some different things sometimes. You see this sheet is calculating, so that's a bad sign. Like it's I don't know. Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna let it go and see how far it gets, and we'll kind of verify some of these numbers as we get through here. So what we have here is, this is the sum of, I used to store all my, so like for 1 day instant delivery, all your parts are stored on the planet with the shipyard. That is why this planet has 30,000 tons of storage, because that's what it takes to store a couple ships there, plus like random ship parts, and to like make it happen. But now when I'm making gateway stuff there, which includes GWS, that is 5,000 tons each, and we're going to be making 2 at a time. Like the ship stuff can't live there anymore. It just does not all fit. So a lot of the ship stuff is stored in ship parts here, this section of my inventory. And then when you order a ship, it's like an hour flight to get it to Hef. So that's fine for people. They're usually fine with it. I'll try to keep like 1 in stock so you can get it right away. So the ships that we build, I try to offer as few ships as possible for external sale to simplify logistics. But, okay, so basically how this sheet works is I have the WCB selected. It lists the stock. I'm going to copy the I'm going to trust that this is correct and not verify on stream because it's super tedious and no one wants to watch me do that. So I'm going to copy the values in. It says we have 2 WCBs in stock. The limiting factor is the CQS. We only have 2 CQSs. Let's do a quick check on that. There's 2 here on Hef. There are none on Antares. So that's correct. All right. And those aren't normally sold to the public. What we normally are selling are the standard 2Ks. We have, let's assume we have an infinite amount of SF. So we have 7 of those in stock. So when you, so how this sheet works is the ship designs are stored here. So it's the name of the ship and what it takes. When you select a ship in the dropdown, it kind of copies that into the leftmost column. We have our pricing data from every exchange. We have the PP7 price. We have our internal price. And then we have the prices that all the other ship vendors sell their stuff at. And some of that's extrapolated because some places like GTU has a public price list where they sell pieces individually. Some of them just sell completed ships. And the completed ships, we can kind of infer the individual prices based on that. So that's how we do our pricing. Then we have our producers and who makes them. And we've kind of gotten more, with our auction and order system, I can say like, hey, anyone who makes these or has one or whatever, just send it to me. So I don't really need to manage individual producers the way that other ship builders do, which I think is kind of key because we're OOG is an organization that is very freeform. Like nobody is assigned tasks. You know, you do what you want. People want to help out. They find a way to help out, and it's not really assigned in that way. All right, so we have 7 in stock. We're short on LFEs, which is crazy because I can turn those out pretty fast. Let's see if that's true. It said we had 17 LFEs. We have 14 LFEs. 14. Yep, 14 is what it said. So we better make some more of those. Those are made on Phobos. They're made in the electronics plant. We just need CBLs. We make CBLs. We're low on CTF. I bet I don't have any in storage. So let's take a look at CTF. Like it's easy to get sidetracked. Let's put in a bid for some. All right. Let's go ahead and start up some programming stuff because I want to see the some other prices for CTF to make sure I'm not making a bad choice here. Question from the audience: do you think placing asks to save storage is an exploit? As someone who benefits from that, it is not an exploit. I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't. Yeah. No. I don't think it matters. Yeah. I don't think it's important. So kind of don't care. Okay. So CTF. Let's do all. CTF. All right, so the orders for CTF and the modeled price puts it at 17,564. Oh, this is there's a bad table row here. Oh, and what about a tax? So putting a tax anywhere in the CX would be interesting. It would push people towards vertical integration and also push people towards the private market. Most people, I agree with low tax, that like the more activity on the public market, the better the economy. The more pricing information everybody has, the more accessible it is to other people. So like it's good. It's good to push people towards the public CX, and it's good to have people not have private CX. Obviously, we're going to make everyone's going to do their best deals privately and in corps, which I think is a lot of fun of the game. You know, like low tax isn't in a corp with other people like that. So it's a different way of playing. But most people are probably having fun with other people doing their side deals. I think even a small tax would push people out. And you see that in other games like Sim Business, which is like Prosperous Universe without any logistics in it, because everything you make is always everywhere. It's at every planet. But they have like a 3% cost on 3% tax on everything that trades on their CX, essentially. And then you can skip that by doing a private deal with someone and it's their way of motivating player-to-player interaction, because otherwise it's a single-player game in that case for them. But like it's also ends up being kind of shallow interactions that are never as meaningful as the ones I have in Prosperous Universe, which like I feel like I have real good, like it's fun to wheel and deal in Prosperous Universe, right? Like you help out people, like the deals are always interesting. It's not just like, oh, this for this, like this amount of money for this thing, right? You're like, oh yeah, I'll set up recurring, like I promised to buy your production for 3 months, things like that. It's really interesting. I'll front you money for this production thing. There's always more to the deal in this game, which I really love. So that's why I'm hesitant. So I'm not really sure what I would do with regards to any sort of tax on the CX, whether that's a tax for placing asks or bids or anything like that. So I assume it was very intentional to like not have that tax. And if there are private CXs, that would probably change. I think it's tough. You don't want a dead CX in your list. Like that's just kind of lame. And it's a lot of like if you live by one of these dead CXs, like do you even want to like look for a material there when you know it's probably not there? And it's not there, so you don't want to start listing things because they're not going to move. It's like a chicken and egg problem that you don't want to exacerbate by reducing CX. Anything that would reduce CX activity makes that chicken and egg problem a little worse. All right, so my secret pricing tool that I lost. I don't know if I want to pay 20K for, like, we got to get these LFEs in. That's 60K per LFE. The CBLs are just like sitting around. It is coming from Allocator, and he's our friend, so we'll just buy a bunch. Oh, now I have 59. Like, did I buy some when I wasn't paying attention? Did someone fill my... Oh, did you guys fill my order while I was on the stream? Somebody did. Oh, thanks, guys. All right, well, now I'm gonna make another order. I was like, where did that stuff come from? So the other thing is my ASM time is going to be booked for gateways. So CTF takes a ton of ASM time. So like, let's get a bid in for this. And this at this price, it's a fair price where people are making like 80. They're probably making 100K per day if they were just making CTF at an ASM base. So I feel like that's ethically an okay price. Like I'll put lowball prices that only get filled when people are quitting the game, but sometimes I want to make good prices for people too. All right, so let's get that stuff shipped to. All right, how many CBLs do we have? Let's see. We have 1,400. Great. We'll take 20. That's the gateway CBL. Those are gateway CBLs. Don't worry. But this stuff isn't. I don't know why I have so much of that. And the CTF. Let's take 2/3 of it. And the other thing that gets made here, the beryllium that chews through that stuff, obviously. We'll get some of that in. We have some lithium to bring. BCO, HCC, we probably don't have any of that. We don't have any HCC laying around. We have to bring that in. So these will switch off. And then I want to get more FIR going, and that's CTF also. So I'll kind of like look through here, and I'll queue up a couple of these. Let's do 4, and then I need some wall. Let's do 50. Ship's not full, but that's close enough. Phobos is real close. We'll send that out. Yeah. Yeah, and if anyone has any other questions about who want to hear my opinion about random things, please be my guest. All right, so we were looking at ships. All right, so a lot of 2Ks available. 7 2K ships available. Let's go ahead and write that down. So next 2K ships. 2K, we call them the 2K premiums. Those now have LFLs in them. They used to be MFLs, but in order to standardize, I just want to do all the ships as LFLs, so I'm not mixing and matching. 5K shield ships. All right, we have 2 in stock. We would have 3 if we had another LFE. So we would have 4. No, that's not right. We're short on shields down there. Okay, so there's 3 of the 5K shielded ships. Those are great ships, and they are a bargain at 19.6 million apiece. Let me tell you. That's my sales pitch. The other thing I need to check to make, do I have LFEs posted somewhere to ship back? Wow, it's thin. LFEs were like my first ship item the first thing that I made for ships were LFEs. And I had 200 of them. And it took forever to eat through that supply and get those all sold. But now looking at the market, I used to sell them for 400K each. Then they kind of went down to 200. And now they're substantially under 200, which is kind of crazy. I wonder how much of that is people moving into CBLs as a market maker item. It's so easy to pivot from CBLs to LFEs that the price just dropped. Yeah. So, all right. So we got 7 of those. We're going to call it 3X shielded 5K ships. And the thing to be careful about that I'm mindful of is that these are counted individually. So if someone wanted to buy all of the 5K shields and the 2K ones, that would be a problem because then we would be out of LFEs. So the unshielded 5Ks. So we do have 3 of those as well if we have the LFE. But I I'd rather sell, I don't want to, like they'll overlap, right? So I'm just going to market that as 1x unshielded 5K, and we'll adjust the numbers as they go. So that is something that we'll want to. So I'll put up a post kind of after the stream for putting those up for sale publicly, because I think they were privately posted already, and the ones we sold some internally, and now we'll go for those. So this needs to be shifted over because it's out of stuff. Yeah, I like making air, but I like making LIS even more. So we're gonna queue it up. We're gonna queue the water reclaimers up too. They're not as great. Unfortunately, the LIS is like the top of the pyramid, but it's not as effective a market maker. But they usually end up going into ships anyway, so I'm sitting on 24 of them. Oh, I could sell 5 to Evil's. I bet he's using that for currency conversion. It's possible he's doing ship stuff with them too. Interesting. That's an interesting thought. I don't know. Tough to say. Is anyone paying more for them somewhere else? Yes. In Ben, you could ship them over there. Oh, I have some for sale there. So that's, if they want it, they can buy it. Capacitors, the CBLs used to be the number two. Option. All right, this is an old post. How old is this? I don't know. In the old market maker values, oh, this isn't true at all. All right, well, I'm convinced CBLs, a long time ago, CBLs were a good choice. They're pretty kind of mediocre now. We would have to, what do we have them at? So we have them modeled at about the price they're at. What about air? So air is definitely, the market maker price is better than that. What about LIS? Yeah, LIS is actually, the market maker price is actually under the price for LIS. And WR is actually pretty close to their modeled price from Thais calculator. Yeah, that chart is definitely from the. I mean, you can see on that old chart, like IDC was like way double. Like it was, like there was just no competition for IDC. And even after that, when they were doing those little balance patches where they were decreasing IDC, like it went from being way on top to still being way on top. And like it's still really competitive as a material, but it's just not that crazy where it was double everything else. So yeah, so I'm really glad that like air bumped up to a place where it can be competitive, and like there's a lot of people who make log and things like that now for that too. I think I will do the gateway stockpiles, and then we'll call it a stream. So let's go ahead and find the. This feels like a good thing to do publicly because that way, you know, accountability and all that jazz. So, how the whole gateway ledger system works is, for people who are unfamiliar, this is the full list of materials that are required for our gateway network owned by the ADI Gateway Cooperative. The cooperative is a group who's working together, for profit, or at least, for a greater good, but also hopefully for profit, not a donation, contributing materials, getting shares of a gateway. And these are the gateways that we've selected to be building. Basically, the core ones in Antares are what the list is in this approximate priority order, with some diplomatic discussions that are underway that might shift the order slightly. So those gateways are getting built, and based on these gateways and the upgrades that are assigned to them, these are the resources that are required to be put into the gateway. This doesn't list the prerequisites, so like you need this many SPT, and then you need 50,000 more for all the GWS. So you pledge yourself that you say like, hey, I promise I'll make these, or I intend to make these at least, by putting yourself on this list. And then when I receive actual contributions, I list them here, and those actual contributions get put into here. It gets a little more complicated because there's 2 additional things that happen. One is that you can give me a cash contribution, or you can do a share transfer, shares that you have for money or something else of value, of consideration. So when people contribute cash to the project, the cash is received by a gateway buyer, of which they are all me. Like, I was hoping other people might get involved in that. And the cash gets spent on gateway items, and then everybody who donated cash is put into a pool proportional to the amount of cash that they donated, and they get the shares for the items that were purchased. So it's my diligence is making sure we get a good price. The money that you give to me is well spent fairly for the items that are available. And we're very close to on target for allocating that. Like, the cash donations are always going to be a little less valuable because the easy stuff people donate early, and the hard stuff you have to chase down with cash, basically. So we're really, really good value for your money for gateway donations in cash. Then everything that gets sent to me gets piled in this giant pile in my Antares station, and then gets tracked like this. Basically, the sum of everything that has been sent gets dumped in the CX, and then I audit it by going through this list and seeing how much I have in stock of each item. And someone earlier had asked about, when do you do upgrades on your HQ? And the answer is, I don't do them as much as I normally would. I don't do my HQ upgrades because I don't want to accidentally spend gateway materials on an upgrade. Like, that would be awful, right? Like, and then be in a situation where I can't balance those books. Question from Molp is, any idea what you'll price the gateway jumps at? Yes, we had done. So the vortex fuel is pretty cheap. We can almost write that out of the calculation. The business people out there in real life always tell me to price things based on what they're valued, not on how much it costs you to sell it to them. And that's especially true with like software as a service stuff, right? Like, well, there's no incremental cost to add another user to my software product, right? So like, what value do they get out of it? So now that we know what the gateway speeds are approximately, we can say something like, okay, if you're using gateways every jump, that cuts the number of ships you need in half. It cuts your flight time in half. How much, what is the cost of half of your ships capitalized over their lifetime? And, what is the value of having that, not even So you can look, if you look at it as a throughput problem, if you go twice as fast, you just move twice as much stuff with that number of ships, or the same amount of stuff with half as many ships. Even if you discount the fact that it gets there faster, so your latency is lower, that gets us to a price around 10,000 a jump. And that's going to be kind of our starting point for that. We have absolutely no idea how many flights a day we're going to get. We've tried to make guesses on that. We know the number of connected players, the number of, there's different measures we have of the number of active players based on, players that have multiple bases. You can go through FIO and try to figure out different measures of different ways you might measure number of jumps that happen along gateway paths. It's so much speculation that it's really hard to guess on that. So I think if we are getting capped at our 100 jumps per day, or whatever it was, then we'll probably adjust the price upwards so that the gateways are well utilized, but not, they're not so low priced that it's just a lottery to see if you get your ship through there. Because I think it is a bummer if you find a lot of people who are getting their ships, if they're getting their ships stuck at gateways because the cap was hit. That's a bummer for them, and it's more valuable for them to pay more and know that their ship is actually going to make it through the gate. So that's why I'm advocating towards that 10,000 a jump price. And we also don't really know. Good point by the audience there, that what is the price of fuel saved and ship damage, which probably outweighs that for an unshielded ship taking a ton of damage. So I think a lot of, especially the more casual players, when you're first starting, you start off with a tank full of fuel, and that's a bunch of flights, especially if you're going slow. And the idea that you have to repair your ship is so far off in the future that you don't even calculate the price of, it effectively doesn't have a price. People might not make that calculation, but I feel pretty confident that 10K a jump is not at all too small. We go up from there probably. And we do want it to be in a position where we can begin sending money back to the shareholders. Because I think everybody understands that they're kind of donating, but they're not throwing money away donating. Everyone is expecting some kind of return for this. So we do take that seriously, and we'll be logging. I've had some chats with Caskman, who runs Hef and Griffinstone as the governor, and I'm in an MP role there, because that will be, there'll be a lot of motions that need to be made on those planets. Each, gateways in each direction that need to be linked and upgraded and upkeeped and fueled. And then the income needs to be tracked pretty diligently, because it will fall off the government report if you miss it, and then you just have a pool of government money that you can't separate, and you won't know how to pay that out to shareholders. And if we are looking at 100 jumps a day at 10K a jump, you're making $1 million a day. Pretty soon that starts adding up to real money, I guess. So don't, and it will likely overshadow the income of most of the planets that have a gateway around it. The gateway will be the primary intake of income for that planet. So Yep, it's hard to estimate. We don't know if if it's checked by default, and I think in Antares we have good routes planned. Like let's go ahead and like open up the old the most recent update. So I think especially on the galactic east side, from Hef to Griff is a really common route. There's a bunch of planets here because, right, people will go take the gateway to Griffinstone and then they'll jump backwards towards LS 934, and that's still faster than doing the forward jumps. So I think the Griffinstone gate will get a lot of action. There's a couple of these other planets on the side here that are that have activity in them. Then there's one more jump to Aetherwind, which is New Antares, and that's an important part of Antares too. Like there's a ton of water coming in from there, so and that's a really good starter planet for new players. I often recommend that for someone's first couple of bases. Maybe it's in there if they want to do drinking water or agriculture. So like, and that's two jumps, and that's a long trip. So you save a lot by having those two gates open. And we'll be running this side of that gate, and Captain Coleslaw and the Ben team will be running the other side of that gate, which is a really nice it's a really interesting like political setup, right? Like you have a bridge, you need both sides of the bridge, but a different country is running each side of the bridge. But they're both cooperating to make that happen. So that's set up that way, just like Evo runs IA1, the two systems, IA 151 and 158. He's governor of all the planets in those two systems, except one, I think, something like that. So we'll run the gate out there, he'll run the gate back, or he'll be running the gate from there to Hortus. Yeah, right. Right now we have both of those gates, and he'll be going out because he wanted to run the gate by himself. So yeah, so we're running both directions of those. That means I need to line up the governor. I need to line up a governor slot for that, or a MP slot for that. You know what? I'm gonna write that on a post-it because that has to happen. That has to happen now-ish. IA 158. Okay. Yep. Yeah, so the Antares Gateway Cooperative has kind of decided on these just the points over here. Everything else on this map was negotiated out by other player groups doing the gateways. So SNF Supernova Foundries is doing a bunch of gates in Moria. They're doing more gates outside of the loop as well, I think. I have been told but have forgotten what those other items are. They're in they have some shorter gates and stuff. They're in a pretty good position for that. So SNF is taking care of that. Ben Kawa, the Kawa group, and Captain Coleslaw is taking care of that. Also in Moria, LMAO is playing a role in an increasing role in the development of that region. In Hortus, I don't know that. I don't think the groups there are not as far along, I think. I made a note in the July update because it is hard to keep track. Okay. Yeah, Captain Coleslaw organizing on this sheet. Real Bandit of Supernova Foundries is my main contact for Moria. File Folders is running the gate there. So that, yeah, that's the gateway situation on the map for that. And yeah, Akian says, like, considering it a donation with a possible return. I think that's the attitude most people are taking, I think. And I think that's good because the the way the payout works is just such a big question mark that we really don't know how it's going to happen. Yeah, I should check it. I should, and a big thing about it is that the gates, the value of the gateway network, the value of each individual gate increases with the more stuff there is on the network. Because the more places it visits, the more likely that you'll take it to somewhere interesting that you want to be. And the reason we focused on CX to CX from the start is because that's the place that we understand the traffic the most for. There are definitely interesting gateway options. There are some good gateway options to go from Antares up to like ArcLight or whatever this stuff is, because there are places where a gate would reach, and potentially save a lot of jumps. I'm not gonna find. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so like that one. But I don't think the level of activity up there is gonna justify that. And there's also a gate. There's a gate across that kind of central loop that was possible, that was considered for a while. That's the one, maybe. Yeah. This is the gate that was considered for a while. Come on. Janky tool. All right. Yeah, so this is a valid gate. It ended up there was a lot, obviously there's a lot of politics involved in like where the gates get placed. And every choice has a lot of trade-offs. So like this is a really cool single jump, but people wanted a continuous network because of the thought that they could fly STL ships through it, which like, I don't know, maybe that's good, maybe that's not. But a continuous network also allows you to go from gate to gate to gate without any FTL flights in between. So you've just got that align phase, and the align phase is like 10 minutes. So it's actually really short to do that. So you don't end up with like long STL flights as a part of your FTL between two gates that are in different systems. So that's why we have that gate-to-gate network that is set up the way it is. There was also enough demand for like, hey, I really want to put my HCBs through gates, that we kind of recalculated the gates, and we added another gate because we would have gone straight from Ben to Hecaton and Styx to Antares. That was kind of the original plan. And that works. The gates fit that way, but that means that you can only fly 2K ships through it. It doesn't have the size upgrades. So if you do the size upgrades to get the bigger ships through, it means you're limited on distance. And in Antares, we got kind of unlucky with like positionings, right? Like there's a 15.05 here. There's a 50, like it's over 15. So you need that full upgrade to get you to 20 parsecs. You pay for that full upgrade, even though you're only using a little bit of it to get that extra distance. Because like if you have a jump like this where it's under 10 parsecs, but it saves you 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps, like that's great. That's sweet. But here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps, and it's over 15 parsecs. So it took a lot of nuance. Like Moria has some shorter jumps. It's kind of just a matter of like how scrambled up is the system, where you have systems that are physically close to each other in the map. Like they're physically close, but you can't get to them because there's no normal jump lane. And those are situations that are great for a gateway to shorten things. And you can kind of you really got to squint at these because sometimes the lines overlap, and just try to figure out like, oh, how far away are these systems? Can be hard to tell. So this map has its advantage for where are these lines? These aren't connected, right? Yeah, those are not connected. Even though the line goes almost through it. Yeah, YK, okay. So that's why I like to use the other map for some planning tasks, but when you want to see gateway distances, like this actually shows the positions. So it can help out for saying you want to say like, oh, which BN planet is actually closer, because we wanted to originally go from Nyx, which has 3 triple green planets, like that was going to be our staging into BN, but we actually had to move over here because this distance to this distance is more than 12 but less than 24 parsecs, and this is shorter. So like we had a plan to stage here and then fly ships within BN to move back and forth. And that would have worked, but it would have delayed getting the first RE out of the system and getting the first base down. So we kind of had to go with a different option here. But if the gateway network grows from Antares, if we can so you can look at it the way that people do public transportation in the real world, which is you build the infrastructure and then people will build the buildings, the houses, right? Like build the light rail system and then a bunch of apartments pop up along it. Because there are really good systems in OS and GM, and even like here, like the best water source in the game is in GM. And there are good systems down here. It takes like 3 or 4 gateways to get down there though, which is a pretty huge investment. 3 or 4 pairs of gateways to get down there. So you could shorten it a little bit, especially from the WU to GM like distance, like a gateway in the middle there could really shorten things up. And maybe that would spawn growth of those systems. It only spawns growth if people have perfect information and know that the gateway's there and that it functions. And a lot of people are using Prun Planner to make those decisions about what planet do I settle next. And like, can Prun Planner communicate jump distances, including gateways? Right now it can't. It would have to start doing that in order to make those systems look more attractive for development by other people. So, yeah, that's kind of where that sits. So we got a new government. Okay, not me, not my planet, not my problem. Perfect. Try to stay on top. Yeah. All right. Well, any final questions? Otherwise, I'm going to call it a stream. I'll give folks a couple minutes because I know there's a little bit of a delay for streaming. But that's about where we're at. I was auditing the gateway list. I'll maybe do that offline, but basically the process for that is going through these stock numbers, looking at what's in here, and making sure I have an overage of everything, because I do run repairs and stuff out of that pile of stuff. I just need to buy from the CX to make sure it stays up to date. All right. Well, thanks everybody. All right. Have a good night. We'll see you all on Discord.